have never pegged myself as a perpetrator of mayhem, but I was desperate. I was 20 years of age. I was studying for a history degree at Bristol University in England, and I was passionately in love. Well, I had a major crush on my academic advisor, who was a history professor called Hugh. He was going away on sabbatical, and I had to find out if he felt the same way as me before he went. Now, Hugh taught a history course called America Through British Eyes. I never thought it would come in so useful. And he was always droning on about this man that I found as dry as dust, who died in 1922, called James Bryce. And I'd be sitting staring at him in classes when he would say things like, James Bryce was the British ambassador to the United States, and he wrote about American institutions with all the complexity and thoroughness that you'd expect from a constitutional lawyer. And his voice would fade away, and I'd imagine myself running my fingers through his thick, sandy hair. Oh, how could I find out what his state of his heart was? Well, one day in his class, I had the most brilliant idea. I thought, I know, this is what I'm going to do. Valentine's Day was coming up. Now, in England, we're rather big on anonymous Valentines. I thought, I'll write him a passionate poem, and then I will also send one to every other member of the history faculty, just in case he doesn't like me, and then I can pretend the whole thing was a big joke. I thought this was a brilliant idea. And I came upon a box with them the other week, and here they are. Here they are. What I did was I wrote them out, and I cut them out, stuck them on cards. Now, I found Hugh's very easy to do. After all, I mean, I was passionate about the man, and the words just flew onto the page. I do think that this is worthy of a Pulitzer. Oh, sexy, gorgeous, beloved Hugh. You've no idea how I lust for you. Just one look at that sensuous face, and more than my heart begins to race. I stare at you with eyes full of vice, but your only interest is James Bryce. This time I really have been smitten. I only wish that you'd be bitten. Through your seminars I gaze with love. Oh, make him notice, you powers above. But well I know this tale is corny, and I shall stay depressed and horny. Bit of difficulty with the other professors. After all, I wasn't in love with them. But I did try my best, and there was one called Dr. Whittam who really was an enormous great teddy bear, and this is his. Oh, cuddly, beautiful Dr. Whittam, by Cupid's dart I have been smitten. Passion for you makes my heart afire, of your history course I'll never tire. I've thrown you many a smouldering glance when you're spouting of the state of France, but never of passion have you spoken. I'll have you know, my heart is broken. But I came to a bit of a hiccup because we had one female professor. Her name was Lady Margate. She was married to some chap in the House of Lords. So I had to think male thoughts, but this was the best I could do. Oh, beautiful loved one, Lady M, all grace and beauty from you does stem. At your lectures I am all agog. Do I stand a chance, your heart to jog? I know, they got progressively worse. So on the 13th of February, I took them over to the history department and put them under the relevant doors of the beautiful old ancient Gothic building when it was very quiet at night, and I waited. Well, the next day, Valentine's Day, I had already arranged to meet with Hugh to go over one of my essays. I got into the office. He didn't meet my eyes. There in the middle of his desk was the Valentine. We both looked at it. He didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. He went over my essay. I didn't hear a word. And then he said, Geraldine, something very interesting has happened in the history department. Someone has sent every member of the history faculty a Valentine. Now, we got together and we decided, or at least the others decided, it couldn't possibly be a student because they wouldn't have the ingenuity to do such a thing. But I said, don't be so sure. I thought, does he know? Does he not know? Does he love me? Does he not? Oh, Hugh. Oh. And then he said, yes, they caused a bit of a whirlwind in a British kind of way in the faculty. He said, it turns out that Lady Margate had rather a thing for the head of the history department, Dr. Ingram. She presumed he had sent her the Valentine, so she sent him one back. And the last they were seen, they were looking very cozy, cuddling up in a corner of the cafeteria. And at least 2 other professors confessed their love to other people, thinking that it was them who sent them. He said, yes, at least 3 relationships have started because of those Valentines. And then he said, now I wouldn't normally tell you because you're not on staff, but we have done things together and we are friends. We are just friends. And I am going away on sabbatical in the next few days, and I won't be back till the next academic year, so I wish you well. Do close the door on your way out. Ah, thank you for that, yes. Thank you. I went cold. I felt as though an ice pick had been thrust in my heart. I managed to hold it together until I got home, and then I flung myself to my soft down comforter and wept for what seemed like hours. However, the young human heart is very resilient. I was in love with someone else in the next 3 months or so. I fell in love rather frequently in those days. And the lovely thing about getting older is you hear the end of stories. And so recently I became friends with, Facebook friends with someone who I'd known from college, and she still lives in Bristol. And she told me that Hugh had been in love with his own history professor. In fact, they settled down together after he came back from sabbatical, and they're still together. And I vaguely remember being introduced to Hugh's professor, who was a tweedy, pipe-smoking, very English country gentleman. And I wish them well. And so, the major saved and sanctified part of me regrets causing such mayhem. But the rest of me twinkles at the memory.